Hello and welcome back to the Rugby Pod. I'm Andy Ryan, Big Jim and Goody with me as usual. We'll be looking back on all the weekend Six Nations action and then ahead to a massive round 5 as France chase a Grand Slam and Ireland look to put the pressure on in case they slip up against England. And we'll be having a chat with France defence coach Shaun Edwards. So settle back, enjoy, and make sure you're subscribed on Spotify.
Pod.
Rugby Pod.
How you feeling, lads?
Fucked.
I don't want to start with a negative, but on the same as you, Jim, absolutely shattered. Tell Dublin that. Yeah, just be honest. Tell Dublin that. Tell Belfast that. Tell dinner in Oxford that on Friday night. Tell Twickenham all day that Saturday, and then BT Sport Sunday. I mean, I was just happy not to drink on Sunday, I'll be honest. I dread to think how many Guinness I've slammed down my neck over the last 5 days. And it's just got another quiet week coming up this week, to be honest.
I can answer your question, though. In answer to that question, I'm going to say 133, approximately. And with that, means you probably had 3 bottles of blackcurrant with that as well. So can you imagine the amount of sugar and calories you've consumed? Well, I can. I went for a spin class this morning and then I finished it. My mate in the spin class said to me, I don't think one spin class is going to get rid of all that Guinness, Goody. I was like, no, you're fucking dead right, it's not. So, it was a huge few days. And this week's a quiet week as well. So, obviously Manchester Tuesday, Liverpool Wednesday, Cheltenham races Thursday. I mean, never stops. Tell the liver that. But what I have to say is, how good was Dublin and Belfast?
I thought you were going to paper over the cracks, which are actually ginormous, Andrew. We have to go back. We've got to go way back. We've got to build back.
The masses were asking for that, weren't they?
They wanted it. They were desperate for it. And my goodness me, we gave it to them. Wednesday in Dublin, you've got loose, and then you've got oh my loose, is all I'm saying. And genuinely, I went to bed on Wednesday night, and I felt like I'd been tasered.
Very true. I mean, it started off, and we love going to Dublin without a shadow of a doubt. It's one of our favourite places.
I can't believe how many people come out. I just find it bizarre.
But this is the thing. So going over to Dublin, Jim's Scottish, I'm English. Going to Ireland, I'm there with me fucking bottle of blackcurrant and McGuinness, offending people like you wouldn't believe, because in Dublin you're not supposed to put blackcurrant in your Guinness. But we've walked into D2, and I've looked into the room, and it's absolutely fucking rammed. And you're getting the buzz, you're getting the butterflies are going, and then we go around the back and we get announced on stage. I've never had a bigger cheering on my life, Jim. Like, I felt it very tingly. There was a rush of blood to a certain area. I'm like, what a legend. And normally, I play a bit of pantomime villain, don't I? But expecting a few jeers, a few boos or whatever. The Irish, no. Leading with Harry Potter at the front of the live show. He was sat there loving life, mate. It was an unbelievable night. I'm very, very grateful, very, very humbled, weren't we, Jim?
You say that. In Belfast, there weren't many cheers for you, Andrew. Let's be honest.
There was a few.
There was a few. It felt a little bit different. In Belfast. I'm one of their sons. Well, my sister's one of their daughters. That's why, because she was born in Antrim. So
I mean, you didn't mention that. So. You didn't mention that throughout the whole show. Basically, it's claimed to be Irish. Yeah, basically, you claimed to be Irish. You said about what Leinster. You said, "Oh, we," and then someone just corrected you and said, "Hey, we're in Northern Ireland. We don't like Leinster." You're like, yeah, sorry, I'm Ulster. Like,
hashtag always just stand up for us. But we did get thrown off. Slightly. I'm in between dissecting my thoughts on Scotland, Italy, with a dirty brush. It was a dirty brush, slimy brush, and then the myth turned up on stage.
I have never seen you shit yourself live as much as you did on Thursday night in Belfast. Jim's chatting away. And out of the corner of my eye, I see it's a giant. Basically, she's bigger than you, Jim. She, he, Titti Von Tramp, however you meant to address the person Titti Von Tramp as. Who the fuck is that absolute giant with a big blonde wig on, a skirt that was hardly there, high heels like you wouldn't believe, and Jim just started trembling. He started crumbling. He's like, "Hello, how are you?"
I want the knife, please.
You just couldn't speak, could you, Jim? And I've never seen you choke.
I've
never seen you stunned.
It was just awkward. I was lost for words until Mrs. Von Tramp bent over in front of the crowd and asked everyone, "What have I had for dinner?" And I didn't realise it was a rhetorical question. So I just said a crumpet and a lettuce. And then after that, I felt so much more comfortable that I answered the question that shouldn't have been answered. But I tell you what, and I'll say it again, incredible shape. Andrew, put me and you to absolute shame. I mean, if me and you were morphed together, it would look horrendous. Now, Miss Von Tramp is 53 years old and looks amazing. You're thinking, how have you got a shape like that?
Maybe a hot dog as well. Did you see a hot dog or not?
I couldn't see a hot dog, no.
Okay.
Just a crumpet and then lettuce at the end. So that was it. But my goodness me. Actually, I think I did see a hot dog. I might have done. Come to think of it. It was up, strapped up, but I don't know. But all I'm saying is a couple of days to remember. And you can see it by the smile, the B4 smile. I loved it, lads. Absolutely loved it. And like you said, Andrew, we go again.
Well, Gertie, after all that as well, you had to back it up. And did you have a few at Twickenham?
Again, had more than a few. Said to the missus I'd come home at a reasonable time. I'll try and put the kids to bed. Do you reckon I managed to get the kids to bed? Do you reckon I got home in time for that? So yeah, a little bit of doghouse, and then I rocked in at about. I think 10:30, 11 o'clock is fairly reasonable, is it not?
What, in the morning or in the evening? Which one?
Well, it's kind of the promise I'll be home to put the kids to bed when it was a 4:45 kickoff. So there's absolutely fucking no chance of it. But yeah, I did a load of hospitality. Stevie Ferris came along to hospital. I had Sam Underhill as well, who was very good. Hosted a decent Q&A with those boys. So yeah, it was all good pre-match. And then 82 seconds in, it all went a little bit wrong for England. But more importantly, I spent a little bit of time looking at a guy with the grey shirt on, with his top button done up. The old air tie was out, wasn't it, Jim? Your trousers weren't long enough for your legs, but hey, you look good. Talk to me through the top button done up though in studio.
There was a few questions going on whether or not it was the right thing to do, and then I looked at the other gentleman in the room, which was Sir Ian McGeek, and I wasn't too sure whether I was going to take fashion advice from Geek. I thought, Italy, top button up. What would the Italians do? What would Castro Giovanni do? What would my mate Sergio Parise do? They'd go top shirt up, cigarette in mouth, and I couldn't do cigarette in mouth, so I just went top shirt up. I just went top button up.
Yeah, I don't reckon the Italians do the top button up, but you did look pretty good, Jim. Just the air tie. Where the air tie looked pretty good as well, right?
Well, who wears ties these days? It's 2022. A lot's happened.
Exactly.
A lot's changed. Who wears ties apart from around your head?
No one. And how are the piles?
I'll be honest. 5 days travelling, not good. 5 days on the Andy Good diet, not good. So you throw that all into the mix and you can imagine what's coming out. But I suppose when you're on TV and it's showbiz, you've got arguably a bit of money, a bit of disposable income to get rid of them, and get the surgeons in. I mean, sir, come into the doctors. What's up? Well, I've got these things that feel like grapes. Or my granddad has anyway. Pull them down. Lettuce. What? And they say what you've had for breakfast and they say what you've had for dinner. I can't do it. I said to Beck, at some point you're going to have to get the scissors out. I don't know how it's going to feel, but I'm hard as nails. But I am not sending my granddad to the doctors. So all I do each night is pray that they disappear. So. And how have we got onto piles anyway?
Yeah,
I thought we were talking all about ruggers.
Let's talk some ruggers then. Goody, tell us about the red card. I mean, a lot of debate about whether we should have orange cards and whatnot, but England still made a game of it, didn't they?
Yeah, I mean, it's a red card every single day of the week. And the fans at Twickenham were booing and people were saying on social media, it's ruined the game and all this stuff. Players got to learn, right? And it probably starts off with sort of comment from Eddie Jones last week that says, they're going to show Ireland the physicality that they've never seen before in their lives. You're just like, oh, all right, mate, come on. Does that get in their heads a little bit? Charlie Ewels sees James Ryan. James Ryan leaves the ball back for Sexton, and Charlie Ewels follows and people like, oh, it's accidental. If you're running upright and you're half a yard away from a tackle, it's your own fault. There's no question about it. It's a red card. England did show a lot of fight. We can get into that around, was it Ireland underperforming? Was it England? You could see how much the crowd, being there, the atmosphere was electric. England didn't perform particularly well ball in hand at times, but when you're down to 14 minutes, difficult. Fundamentals of the game, the scrum was strong, the driving line out was strong. We played a kicking game that obviously was sort of risk averse around down to 14 men trying to put pressure on Ireland. Ireland, if that try where friend of the show, Kayla Doris, bounces off Harry Randall, and if that try's given, you'd fear for England and it could have been a 30, 40 point drubbing. But the crowd got behind them. The scrum was dominating in a roundabout way. You chat about the orange card, and I kind of sometimes I think, yeah, you should have an orange card. Other times, and then when Nigel Owen speaks, when Nigel Owen says, I don't agree with the orange card because why should a team, not get rewarded, but not get punished enough for poor tackle technique when we're trying to get this out of the game completely and eradicate any dangers around or minimise dangers around head contact. So the question around the orange card is sometimes I'm yes, sometimes I'm no. And if Nigel Owen says no, it's a no.
All I'm thinking, looking at that, if you're giving Duhan van der Merwe a 2-week ban for a handoff, Charlie Ewels is getting 6 to 8 weeks for that. And I say that not because I want to see him get banned for 6 to 8 weeks. I'm talking degree of danger. I'm talking everything in the game in which we're all hoping gets rid of in terms of head-on-head contact. I don't even know how we need to sit here and answer that question, whether or not it was a red card or not. I'm not even going to answer it. I refuse to answer it. I think from Charlie Ewels's, okay, I will answer it. It is, yeah. I
agree. Really making a stand there, Jim.
Okay. Charlie Ewels, what are you doing, mate? Like, what are you doing? Really, when you look at it, and I feel for James Ryan. He's had concussion issues. He's not playing this week. He wears the same scrum cap as Kayla Doris, which not proven to restrict concussion, but a lot of lads are now wearing the same head guards because guys like Kayla Doris believe they're good in terms of looking after the head. And there's one loser here, and it's James Ryan. That's it. Yes, England lost, and was the game worse for it? I actually don't think it was. I think it was better for it. I think England, that whole emotional spin, the atmosphere at Twickenham, the booing, and I know, Andrew, you can maybe talk about the booing, but that whole hysteria around it made it more of a game, in my opinion.
Yeah, and they're trying to get that out of the game completely. So, people getting off the line as fast as they can, they're out of control of their body and they're doing it upright. Of course, it's going to be head collisions. So it's kind of, you've got to take a little bit of the line speed off in terms of how you get off the line defensively and be in control of your body so you can dip and go down. It's easy for us to talk about it here, but
that's an easy tackle though. That's not one where James Ryan has changed direction and stepped back into him. Like it's a front-on tackle. And one of the best persons to listen talk about it is Sam Warburton. He talks about tackle technique, and I suppose he can be one of the best tacklers in the game. And he talks about how it's difficult for second rows because he's 6'6", 6'8" with heels. So is James Ryan. And that is the thing. If I played now, I'd be in a lot of bother. Will Skelton, we saw him as well, the way that he would tackle because he's so upright and so big. But that wasn't about being so upright and so big. It was just reckless. I really enjoyed the game, and I really enjoyed the way that England tried to fight back. I enjoyed their scrum coming back into it and the emotion that lifted. I enjoyed seeing the vulnerabilities around Ireland and how it should have been easier for them to play England because England were down to 14 men, and it wasn't. And it made it a real test match because it could have been, like you said, if Kayla Doris would have scored that, they could have run away with it earlier. And they did run away with it at the end. They got the bonus point. But it was, I think all the games this weekend, with the game on Friday night, the Scotland game, Italy game was good. But the two big games was what you want to see in Six Nations matches. Close, physical, bit of drama, a bit of Guinness.
You talked about this scrum briefly there. Let's expand on that a little bit, because how was England so dominant in that area after they lost Ewels?
Don't know.
Jack Noel.
There you go.
hybrid players. Yeah, hybrid players. No, I think a lot of it comes down to how you're interpreting everything via the referee. Yeah, it's how a lot of it was how you understand what the referee was doing. And listen, there's loads of stuff come out. There's pictures come out from Spider Cam above the scrum showing the angle that Carl Sinclair was going in at in terms of Cian Healy. Nigel Owens has come out on social media and said, look, a couple of penalties to England were definitely penalties, but Ireland should have had a couple of penalties. And it's easy retrospectively to go through them and look at them. Eddie Jones came out after the game and said he was disappointed they weren't given the opportunity to attack off advantage and we weren't given the dominance. Basically, he was saying, even though Eddie says he never talks about referees, saying that they should have had a yellow card. And when you sit there and you look at it, Mathieu Reynal, French referees, and I think Lawrence said it on comms, French referees, although England weren't dominant, like pushing the scrum back 5 or 6 meters, it looked like they had dominance. There was a bit of the scrum whipping around and all this stuff, but it always seemed in the average person's eye and in Mathieu Reynal's eyes that England had the dominance there. And that's perhaps why when Eddie Jones was frustrated that Mathieu Reynal didn't give a yellow card or complete advantage to England or a yellow card to Ireland, because the scrums, if you look at them, it wasn't like, you see scrums that are marched down the field 5 or 6 meters and then the whole pack is just spat out. It was going round in circles at times, wasn't it? But it did seem like England were dominant.
What did you make of Genge's performance? Because he was a big part of that, wasn't he?
I thought best game I've seen Genge have. Best game. Hair was on point. Whatever the line was in the eyebrow and the side of the head, he can pull it off, can't he? Let's be honest. I thought it was his best game. I thought Jamie George was fantastic. Maro Itoje, best game I've seen him have. I said that, I think, in the last game. Considering he was ill, the effect that he had on that game, him and Genge, I thought they were world class against Ireland. And I say world class because Ireland are a world class outfit and they were down to 14 men. And the effect that they had, that cements Genge's place now, in my opinion, in the England team, as Lou said.
The other thing on that, Jim, you talk about Maro. When Courtney Lawes obviously shifts to second row, he's a second row, right? That's his best position. Would you agree, or a second row? So
I'd agree it's a second row. In terms of size and line out, yes.
So I think, maybe that was a mass advantage because he is so good. Listen, bend over and push, right? That's what we used to say to you, second rows. But there's a clear difference, isn't there, when you've got a decent scrummaging second row like your good self, Jim, compared to perhaps someone that's not given as much.
Andrew, I like your hair. Yeah, very true. Yeah, very true. But that would have added to it as well. Being on the flank, and Jack Noel ain't a Johnny May. He ain't a chicken. He's a bull of a man. So Eddie Jones mentioned this hybrid player for Jack Noel. We all took the piss out of it, and we saw it. Hey, who's laughing now, mate? Who's laughing? And I think Jack Noel, again, another player I thought was fantastic on the day. But yeah, from a forwards perspective, you could have picked any of them out. But I think the standouts in that pack were Genge, Maro, Genge in that order, Jamie George, and then I thought Freddie Stewart was outstanding as well.
It was a big finish from Ireland, but what did you make of their performance overall, considering they were playing against 14 men? Do you think they took advantage of that like they should have?
Inaccurate. That was it. When you look at it, they always looked comfortable-ish. I know England came back in to level it, and there was a worry, but you could feel if any team was going to score through how we've seen both teams play in the Six Nations, Ireland being off 9 forward runners, dominant around the collisions, it was going to be Ireland. So it was a matter of time. It did feel like that. We've all been in games before when the opposition go down to 14 men and you feel like you need to score off everything, or you're going to throw offloads out because you can, because there's 14 players on the opposition. That's what Ireland were doing, weren't they? They were throwing offloads. Furlong was throwing a few. Caelan the old Doris threw one as well that didn't stick. And then until they started going through the phases and being a bit more dominant around the breakdown, one-off runners and getting over the game line, some of the clear-outs, I know, again, they've done the rounds on Twitter because they're illegal, some of them, whatever. The physicality that they were hitting some of the breakdowns at was frightening. It was frightening. That was Ireland. That is Ireland. We've seen them against England before. We've seen them against the All Blacks, the way that they clear out. Again, we go back to Leinster. You look at the way that Leinster clear out sometimes. Sometimes when it's that quick, that physical, that aggressive, and you've got a French referee, you just play on. But that was when the tide was turning. And I think from an Ireland perspective, poor Scotland, I hope not. But from an Ireland perspective, it kind of resets them going into this week and probably going into next year's World Cup, that they've got to be on it. And we've seen New Zealand as well. I commentated on them in the autumn. I don't know if I mentioned that for Amazon. They were the same when they played against Italy. They were rattled and their accuracy dropped off. And when that happens, without stating the obvious, it's what you saw with Ireland at the weekend. An unbelievable team, but like all of us, human.
It's weird, isn't it? Ireland have won that at Twickenham, the biggest ever victory, yet there seems to be more positivity about England's backbone and, their fight against all odds and the adversity of getting a red card. Bottom line is, it's still 4-0. Ireland, like Jim said, inaccurate. When you're trying to offload, and silly offloads at times about 5 minutes from the line, against a team, and Jim, amazing analytical answer there, James. When you're playing against a team with 14 men, you think and try and score a heavy face, the words of Jim Hamilton. And that's what Ireland did. Had they have just had that little bit more patience, they'd have won that by another 15 points, I reckon. So, but fair play to England, adversity, the crowd were great. The red card was obviously a red card. Ireland, they were celebrating proper hard, weren't they, the England players? They get a scrum penalty. And that's what I'm looking at it going, from an outside perspective, when you see Jamie George and Ellis Genge and giving it the big, massive cheers, and Marrow, we still got our biggest ever defeat by Ireland at Twickenham. So the funny one was Bealham when he scored, and he's like, "Oh yeah," and slams the ball down, because you could see the Irish were rattled, but they had comfortably enough to win that game.
I know there was the red card, but was there a moment of the match for any of you guys?
Yeah. Jarvo 69 getting absolutely blitzed. What idiots brought him on a podcast and gave him a platform? The old Jarvo 69. Absolutely banjo. I'll tell you what, you ain't doing that again. That guy who tackled him was definitely Scottish.
Before we move on to Friday night in Cardiff, just on that red card, do you think it's potentially saved Eddie from a whole lot more criticism and potentially his job if they finish 5th for a second year running?
There you go, Andy Rowe. That last line. Me and Goody back and forth. Wooden spoon decider. Scotland, Italy. Scotland going to finish 6th, going to finish 5th. Well, maybe, just maybe, again, England might finish 5th. Again, just maybe. They might finish again, 5th. And you've got to, without taking the push, you've got to start asking questions. And Eddie Jones has come out in the media, and it's because he's Australian that people are asking questions. No. People are going to ask questions because England, out of all the teams, have the best players to choose from. They've got the most budget. Let's just say they have. I don't know if they have, but let's just say they have. They've got the most budget. They've got the best pool of players. They've got unlimited resources. And they finished 5th last year, and they're looking at finishing 5th this year. For whatever excuses that is, we can talk about Scotland last year if you want, and the decisions that went against Scotland. I'm happy to go through that, why we didn't win a Grand Slam. The red cards are going to take some... That shouldn't have been a red card.
Win a Grand Slam.
Make it.
Come on.
But, do you know what I mean? As in, but everyone, the story built up around finishing 5th, poor Italy, finishing 5th. And England are looking down the barrel. If Scotland can pick up a point and England pick up nothing against France, we're looking down the barrel effectively, because you can't put Italy into the mix, England winning the wooden spoon again.
Or you get hosed by Ireland and you've won the wooden spoon again, because Wales should get 5 against Italy, shouldn't they?
Don't know.
You don't reckon?
Well, how am I saying that again? Look at me. My natural thing is to say I don't know about Wales. Yeah, they were phenomenal on Friday night.
Yeah, I mean, listen. The thing about Eddie Jones, the RFU, if they were going to sack him, they'd have sacked him last year after we finished 5th, worst ever Six Nations last year, and they did this review, which was all kept behind closed doors. Basically, Eddie did a review and said, "Nah, mate, not good enough. Now I'll start listening to what everyone else is saying." There's no one with enough rugby IQ at the RFU, no one with enough power above him to hold him to account on anything. So people in the press have been asking him today, I think, around, if England finish 5th again, is that good enough? He's like, "No, mate, it's not good enough, but there's not enough money to sack him at the RFU. We've just come out the back of the pandemic. We're then 18 months out of the World Cup. Who do you go for? If you're getting rid of him, do you promote from within? Do you give it to Cockers, Matt Proudfoot, and those coaches? Well, you can't. Is there a Rob Baxter? Look at Exeter this year. not going overly well in terms of what they've done. He doesn't want the job. The one person I'd say go and get is, there's two people maybe. Do you reckon Gats? You could bring Gats in 18 months out before World Cup and there'd be a big
He wants the All
spike.
Blacks job.
I know he
All
does.
Blacks job.
Yeah, there'd be a big spike in adrenaline and performance, I'd say. But then you go back to what the Lions did in the summer, and that was pretty abject in terms of how we played. Scotty Robertson, but there ain't enough money to get him out of his contract with New Zealand Rugby Union for the Crusaders, and then you got to pay him. So Eddie ain't losing his job.
Quote me on this. Monday, 14th of March, 5:38, Jim Hamilton says that Shaun Edwards will be the next England coach after the World Cup.
Let's have a look at Friday night's game in Cardiff then. Were you guys impressed by Wales? It seemed like they played all the ball. Was it a bit of missed opportunity for them though?
I told you, didn't I? I don't know what I put in match quite predictable. I did. I put France by 13, I think. Idiot. But I did say on the podcast last week that the way that France play and the way that Wales can play, I don't know if I said this, in my mind I said it, that you need to kick against France, that your defence has to be strong, you've got to be good at the breakdown. I don't think I said most of them things, but that is why, and my point being, Wales did so well. If any team were going to disrupt France, it's going to be Wales, because defensively, around the breakdown, they're strong, they're physical, they take risks. And Dan Biggar, who I thought was, again, I'll say it, it's Six Nations, world class. Yeah. And the French, I heard they were ill. I don't know if they were. There was talk of them being ill, Dupont being injured in the lead up, and everyone spoke about it after, who's been involved in winning Grand Slams. It's not all glory on the way to a Grand Slam. You don't win every game comfortably. There's a game in there or a couple of games in there where you've got to stuff it out and battle it out. And that's what France did. And they said before, I think I watched some of the interviews before the game, they knew, and Shaun Edwards said, and Goody mentioned it last week, that Wales are a champion team. And under the lights in Cardiff on a Friday, the scene was set, albeit not a sellout, too expensive, ridiculous. But the scene was set for them to put France off course. And I thought physically, and the kicking game, which I absolutely loved in the way the game unfolded, was what it's done is it's going to make the game against England so boring, because England are just going to kick the balls because they can't score tries either. But it's a blueprint of how you have to play against France. You cannot carry ball into that, because you're going to get blitzed, and 1 to 15, you're going to get turned over, because they've got the ability to do that. And that was a snapshot. And France did that without a line out. Who would have thought that we've come out of this saying that Wales dominated the line out against France? But they did. And just reiterate, France didn't play that well, but they did enough to make the Grand Slam decider in Paris awesome.
Yeah. Listen, Wales were great. I really feel sorry for Jonathan Fox-Davis. He got rinsed on the outside for one of the big breaks. I think that ended up leading to a try. But then that little ball back on the inside, if he catches that, I think it's a try, isn't it? And that probably puts Wales in front. And for such a player that's been world class for years, and people are questioning why he wasn't in the team, he's obviously struggled for a few injuries and a bit of form. But geez, when he dropped that ball, the whole stadium was just devastated, weren't they? Because it was a try, and that was the game there and then, I think. And it wasn't as if he was under too much pressure either. So yeah, massive props to Wales and how they prevented France from, playing their flair game. I know Dupont did a couple of bits here and there. I'll tell you who I was impressed with.
Let me guess.
Jaminet, the fullback. I ain't ever seen anyone kick a ball as sweetly as that. Apart from, actually, Magic Juan Hernandez. Remember Juan Hernandez, the Argentinian fly-off?
Follows me on Twitter. Not that that's a thing, but he does.
Yeah, and me. Jaminet is a small bloke. I've never seen a purer strike in all my life. Like, you see, people can kick the ball a long way. You see, like, Dan Biggar's kicking his quality, but just watch the way his timing, Jaminet, is effortless in how he kicks the ball. I was watching it, drooling, thinking back to how I kicked it, and it was just lob it in the air and boot it and get your weight behind it. But he strikes it like a pure footballer. It was amazing to see.
Well, we can have a chat now with the man who definitely have enjoyed that French win in Cardiff. France defence coach Shaun Edwards joins us. How are you, mate?
How do you do? Okay, thank you.
Great to have you on, Shaun. Just talk us through the victory on Friday night. It must have been very special for you being part of that Welsh team for so long and then going back there and getting the victory. I know you're fully entrenched in France rugby now and all that stuff, but it must have meant something special as well.
Well, I think special was, the support I had through my years in Wales, really. And that's one of the reasons, I never went on the pitch after to celebrate. And the last 2 times we went to Cardiff, we managed to win very close games. And I've never gone on the pitch to celebrate or anything because it's just, I wouldn't want to do that with the Welsh public, I think I've got too much respect for them. As regards the match, it was everything we thought of. We knew it would be a 12-round fight. I had to do a presentation before the lads about why Wales have been so good for the last 10 years, winning 4 Six Nations more than any other team. And there's a few reasons. One was, and the two ones what I want to mention is, one was tactics. They have a great kicking game, good defence, tactics, and some real tricky plays which nearly caught us out, to be honest, from set piece in particular. And the other one is super fitness. They're always a fit team, Wales. They've got Paul Strigeon as head of S&C there, who British and Irish Lions, legend. And it's always a 12-round fight against them.
The third one was obviously you as well, Shaun.
Well,
those were good.
It was the third one was actually the drink together. So yeah, I suppose I was involved with that. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Shaun, needless to say, you're doing incredibly well in France everywhere you go. Seems to be that way, but we've smiled about it on here. We've laughed about it on here because we've enjoyed it and we respect what you're doing there so much in terms of the language. I don't know if you've managed to see across some of the interaction, if any of your mates on social media, some of the meetings you've been taking in French. And I say that with a wry smile because it's class to see. You look like you're absolutely loving it.
It's been very difficult at first, to be honest, to move a family over here to an environment you've never lived in before, obviously. To find a place to live which you like, and then deal with builders to change the thing, etc. It was been very challenging, but I remember my mate Paul Strigeon. He's lived in France for like 9 years now, and he said, but you look up at the sky in the morning and it's normally blue.
Yeah,
right. You can actually see the blue in the sky nearly every day. I'm sure it's like that.
Where are you, Shaun?
I live in Perpignan, in Caniplage, which is near. So I get to watch some rugby league, the Catalan Dragons. We're all fans of Catalan Dragons, and I went USAP a couple of times as well. And I've hardly seen a soccer ball, to be honest, since I've been there. It's very much a rugby area, and that suits me fine.
And what about being in Paris, Shaun? Have you managed to hit the Moulin Rouge or anything like that? Is that up your street in terms of culture?
I've probably been to Paris for about 10 minutes, to be honest.
Hey, we know a few clubs. Pink Paradise is one that I know pretty well. So,
okay.
you probably don't want to go.
I'll tell you where, it's been locked down since I've been here, mate, to be honest. So, everywhere's just been shut or whatever, or, we've been in a bubble or etc. So I've not really had a chance to sample that, but hopefully, if it all goes well on Saturday night, I might give it a crack.
Yeah, definitely, mate. I can't wait to see. I'd love to see you out in the Champs-Elysees, Shaun. It'd be amazing. Let's chat about the game. Obviously, Friday night it was tough, but there's a bit of illness in the camp as well. Was it true that Dupont had a bit of an arm injury?
Yeah, he got injured on the Tuesday, just a bang. But we did have quite a bit of sickness in the camp, and COVID as well. So it was a fighting victory away from home against the current champions, team. And it was a Wales team with Josh Navidi back, with Falatau back and in great form. I mean, I thought he was magnificent.
Yeah.
Bigger was outstanding, I think, his kicking game. And, that's one of the things in the presentation I had to do, which was to say, well, they've been good and one is the tactics, very, very good tactical team. And they nearly caught us out from a couple of set-piece moves that they put on, and one was a little chip over the top, etc. So they come up with some quite really intelligent, we call them trick plays, and they were pretty unfortunate not to score.
And with everything, Shaun, in camp last week, and we all watched the game, it was a phenomenal game of rugby, but how much did you have to come to the fore in terms of, I hate to say it, but I'm going to say the phrase, toughen up? Because French teams of old, they could have hid behind the illness, going to Paris, going to Wales on a Friday night, huge favourites. How much of it was actually, this is a change of guard in the French team for everything that you've just outlaid there with the illness and COVID and injuries to Dupont?
Well, I can't comment on what's happened in the past, so it's impossible for me to do that because I wasn't here. All I know is lads like Greg Aldrich, they tough. You know,
yeah.
Paul Williamson did 80 minutes. You know, and he's a big guy. He's on, what is it? He's down to like 128 kilograms now. And to do it for full 80 minutes because Roman, he went down with COVID. So, you know, we didn't have that power coming off the bench. So he had to go 80. Yeah, I mean, a lot of guys really dug deep, really did.
The big thing, just leading on from what Jim said, the players now, the French players look like they love defending for you, for the team, for everything. And it looks like it's pretty hard to break down. Obviously, no tries conceded at the weekend against Wales. It's something that's really come on in that French game since you've taken over. Do you feel that connection with the boys from that front?
I do feel a connection with them, yeah. And it's not just me; it's a team effort. Fabian contributes a lot. He kind of prepares, you know, the offensive tactics outside the 22. I probably concentrate more inside the 22 in the pick and go, etc. And Raf, I think from his WASP days, really, you know, he gives team talks to the players, and 75% of it seems to be about defence and about, you know, being part of a great defensive system, of how, you know, invigorating it is. You know what I mean? And the great feeling you get, you know, when you're dominating in defence. So I think I've convinced them sort of to change the mindset. But I remember, you know, Dave Ellis being here, you know, in the early 2000s. Yeah. You know, blokes like Dave Ellis and Clive Griffiths and Phil Larder. These were the guys I was looking up to when I was coming into the game, and you know, they inspired me. So I think France certainly have had a good defence in the past, and hopefully that continues in the future.
Yeah, I think we had you on, Shaun, at the start of your French tenure, and again, this is just the rumour mill and people that you speak to or whatever, hearing rumours that the players potentially struggled with your tactics in terms of your delivery. Was that the case or not? Are they kind of warm to you?
Was it 24-0 against England at half time? So, and that was my first game. So,
pourquoi?
I don't know who said they struggle understanding my tactics, but I think nil's not too bad.
Let's just blame Eddie Jones.
Jimmy class.
Yeah, I mean, they got a couple of tries in second half. Fair play to England because top team. They just come from the World Cup final, but yeah, was it 23-0 at half time or something like that? So.
Yeah, hell of a start. We had Paul Willemser on the podcast a few weeks ago, and he spoke very fondly of you. But one thing we did ask him about, because obviously he's such a big lad, and we talked about training. We heard a rumor that he wasn't allowed to go full bore in training because he just goes around banging boys for fun. I said, there's no way Shaun stops you, Paul, from smashing boys, because he absolutely loves it. He said the buzz in the squad around defence is massive, and he loves putting hits in training just as much as match day.
Well, we have a full contact session sometimes. We're not having it this week because, you know, obviously we're concerned it's the last game, etc. And the boys are already pretty battle-hardened, so you know, it's not needed really. So sometimes we do go bone on bone, and it's something what Fabian instigates. Not so myself really. Well, Paul, like I said, Paul is. I think we're a better defensive team when Paul is on the pitch. He's a very, very dominating character on the pitch. I give him the job. I asked him, did he want the job to be in charge of physicality on the advantage line? Him and Roman Tafafanua, and they both accepted the job, and I think they're doing a pretty good job so far in this campaign.
I'm sure they bloody did. I mean, two absolute monsters. I mean, it must be a delight.
Well, I thought to myself, who's going to argue with them two? You know what I mean? So I'll pick them.
Absolutely.
Up there for thinking.
Oh, mate, of course. It almost seems too easy, but we know it's not. Let's talk about England then. What do you make of England? We've been chatting on the podcast, having a bit of a joke around it, but they're clearly a team in transition. If they lose at the weekend to you, they could finish fifth again. And with the pool of players that they've got, you've obviously coached in England as well. You know a lot about the players. What do you think?
I've got a lot of respect for the England players. I mean, you're playing against a team with a Torji and Alex Genge. They're going to be an absolute force. And then you look at Simmons at the back at number 8. Wow, I mean, what an athlete! He's almost like an NFL player, isn't he? And running back in the NFL is so powerful, strong, and you have great players. Captain like Courtney Laws, who's been done it for many, many years. So I've got a huge amount of respect for them. And they've got 2 young halfbacks who are very, very exciting to watch. I followed Smithy's career from when he signed, I think it was a 4 or 5 year deal with Harlequins a number of years ago. They put a lot of faith in him, and he rewarded them with the championship last year, which is great for him. So I've always followed his career. And players like Jack Knowles, I think I really, really rate him highly. So we know we're in for a real battle at weekend, particularly with, as I said, with Torje and Alex Genge. Them 2 guys that are just world class for me.
They were awesome at the weekend, weren't they? We were just chatting. I mean, Atoji especially was, as we know, was just so effective.
Mate, he's just world's best, isn't he? Let's be honest, 100%.
Yeah, you mentioned Fabien Galtier there, who was my coach at Montpellier for a year. Probably thinks I'm shocking. Well, he knows I'm shocking. He when I was there, I weren't the best. I weren't the best, Shaun, when I was at Montpellier. No. Edinburgh Force was unbelievable.
Yeah, he's good at Saracens, though, wasn't you?
I should have been a lion, mate. My uncle said, my uncle Hamish said it should have been a lion that year. But my point being is Fabien Galtier, there's a bit of an enigma around him. When I was at Montpellier, he'd get off the bus and, the attention that he drew. He's obviously up against it now with Dupont, isn't he? Has Dupont taken that mantle as the most famous man in the French outfit, or has Fabien still got that with the old school?
Well, I think him and Rafa are very, very well known. That's all I can pick up. And I think the whole country's behind him, and obviously behind Antoine as well. 2 scrum halves, and Fabien is a great tactician, fantastic tactician in defence. He understands quite a bit about defence and obviously in attack as well. And to be a top defence coach, you have to also understand attack. And I've definitely learned quite a bit off him about both aspects of the game.
I want to ask you about Antoine Dupont, purely off the back of how good he is, right? He is the world's best player at the minute. You're coaching him. For a small guy, he packs the biggest punch to me. We were chatting to Ben Youngs about him last week and how ridiculously strong he is. How good is he?
Well, he's an amazing athlete. Amazing athlete. I've coached some fantastic number 9s. Mike Phillips, so strong and big. Matt Dawson used to do judo. He was very, very strong and in the tackle area. And then, Rob Earley. And I've scored so many really good number 9s. Owen Redding, so quick between the breakdowns. But Antoine is probably the best athlete in that position I've ever coached. He's just so explosive and so strong, and so strong in the tackle. And his support play is obviously superb, because the pace he has is undoubted. He's electrically quick.
Shaun, you mentioned Fabien Galtier before and what he offers as a coach. You've had a lot of success as a defensive coach. Is it in your sort of pipeline at all to become a head coach down the track at any point?
I was head coach of Wasp and we won the Heineken Cup, which is
mate, don't talk about that. I played in that
game. which is the hardest trophy to win, I think. Except for the World Cup, probably. It's the hardest trophy to win, and it's still my favourite victory. Sorry, mate. We won working with my old pal Sir McGeechan as director of rugby, and we also won English Premiership and Anglo-Welsh, when it was a major trophy, it was live on BBC, and 50,000, 60,000 at Twickenham. So I was head coach for 5 years at Wasp. I left sort of when the money sort of was running out at Wasp, and Di Young came in, and then I went full time in international rugby since then.
Well, that puts you in the shop. That puts you in the shop window. Then, like, we're going to ask that you've got a huge game at the weekend, but the narrative around Eddie Jones after the World Cup is definitely going to be there, whether or not he stays or not. It doesn't look like he is going to stay. Would you be up for something like the England job or not? I'm going to ask it. See what answer you give us. Would you coach?
We want
England?
you, Shaun.
We need you. I mean,
I'd like to have long-term employment. That's all I would say.
But would you be up for it?
Long-term employment. If it's long-term employment, and they asked me nicely, who knows?
We'll say that as a yes.
Amazing. Well, mate, the game this weekend, and obviously it's massive. And are you boys talking? Are the players talking about a Grand Slam at all? The possibility of it, or has it always just been next game? Because Le Crunch, as they call it, is a massive fixture. And
I don't know. I've got no idea what they're saying.
Sure,
I'm joking. My understanding is improving a bit. I'm about 40%. I can understand now. Of course, we're talking about Grand Slams. I put Grand Slam week up on the review of the last game, and it's a time to be excited. And these are, I think my exact words are, these are the games that you live for.
And Shaun, in French, how do you say "fucking smash them"? How do you say that? How do you get that across to the lads?
I just said what you just said there.
Fucking smash them.
Hey, I'm the understand me. Can you believe it?
Amazing, perfect.
All right, Shaun. Well, thank you so much for joining us, mate, and best of luck for the weekend.
Thanks, guys. All right, take care.
Cheers, Shaun. Top man.
For the weekend, mate.
See you as the England coach in 3 years' time. Come on, Shaun.
Say that, mate.
Top lad.
Top
bloke. Absolute legend. Mate, you'd run through a brick wall for him, wouldn't you? It doesn't matter. The language doesn't matter. The language does not matter. Fucking smash him in French, and you're doing it.
I wonder what that is in France. I'm going to try and find out so I can let Shaun know maybe just before the game. I can just send him a voice note and say what it is in French.
Fucking smash him.
Fucking smash.
Fucking plaquage. Bang him.
Blue on white. Fucking plaquage.
And do you know what I love about it? He's like, and I said it before, Wales offered him a 2-year contract to extend. France went in with, no, we want you for 4 years. We want you for the whole World Cup cycle. And he's just said it there. I like long-term employment. So England, you are listening. RFU, you are listening. Break the bank. Get the check. Shaun Edwards. Fucking smash him.
Fucking bag of tea bags out. Yeah, absolutely. It's going to be an awesome game. Awesome game of the weekend. Can he wait, pal?
Jim, what about Rome? Scotland just scraped past Italy, 33-22.
Define scraped.
Had to work hard for it.
Not really. Scoreline flattered Italy, I'd say. And
did it?
Yeah, two late tries.
Yeah, but
job done. Finn's already out, mate. He's already down the Irish bar in the shopping mall in Rome on the pish.
True.
Done.
True. It wasn't vintage though, was it? Wasn't vintage Scotland?
Yeah, tough game. It was, but Scotland were always going to win comfortably. We said that. I hoped that would be the case. And to score 5 tries in Rome isn't bad to get a bonus point. It was good to see Italy actually scoring some tries, something that they've struggled with. But I think we won that game in 3rd or 4th gear. And am I disappointed by it? Not really. The emotion in the lead up to that game for the Italians and the new cup, Massimo Cotita, my former coach who died, the emotion around that for both teams, but for Italy, the fact that they were at home, they were playing for this cup, it was always pointing in the direction where it was going to be a tough game for Scotland because of the emotion, because of the history. Italy's last win in the Six Nations was against Scotland 2015 at Murrayfield. Because of all them things, it pointed in the direction where it could happen for Italy. I didn't think it could, but the outside whispers were that. So there was a lot of pressure on Scotland. There's a lot of pressure on Finn Russell. There's a lot of pressure on Gregor Townsend going into this because we're expected to win, but there was a chance we might not have. But to score 5 tries shows really how comfortable it was. But I think we saw a snapshot of Italy. There was some good bits in attack. Their defence was good. Capuso, the young lad who looks about 12, scored a couple of tries on debut. So there's a few things to talk about in that game. Ali Price got man of the match. I thought it was great to see him back. I thought he was the right call to be man of the match.
Yeah,
he needed that. Yeah, he did. He needed that as well. A bit of open space as a scrum half. That's what got him on to the British and Irish Lions tour. So,
I mean, forward pass for Hoggy's try, but yeah.
There's a few forward passes this weekend. We can go back and look through that if we want to be that, Andrew. If we want to be them people that keep talking about forward pass, no, we don't.
Let it go.
It might have been a forward pass. It could have been very different. But look, it was one of them games that not a huge amount of people would have been interested in with everything at the weekend. But from a Scottish perspective, I was. And the question is after this is what have we learned about Scotland? It's going to be hard in Dublin, almost an impossible task with the way that Ireland played. But we learn, again, we're much better than Italy. And it's as simple as that. And what more have we learned? Not a lot else more this Six Nations, unless we do the impossible.
It's not impossible
at the weekend.
It's not impossible, Jim. Like, it probably is, but it's not 100% impossible. Imagine if Scotland beat Ireland this weekend. You'll be thinking you could win the World Cup again.
Well, I've got a tattoo on my arm that says nothing is impossible. So there is impossible. And it's not impossible. But did I see enough in that Italy game? Have I seen enough of Finn Russell being back to his best? We saw Ali Price get back to his best. Have we got a big enough pack? You know, Johnny Gray, does he come back in? Did Rory Darge? And they're rhetorical questions because my point being is it, with all respect to Italy, like we don't really know, do we? Darge playing at 6 with Hamish Watson at 7. Is that a back row balance that you have playing against Ireland? So again, I don't want to sound like a complete idiot, but I just don't know what to make of us beating Italy and having France a couple of weeks before and getting smashed. I don't know how we go into the Ireland game as in all guns blazing. But as we know, Scotland, we're always good for one big one. We're always good for a big shock. Not that beating England was a shock. It wasn't a shock to anyone because they've only beaten us once in 5. But we're good for a big one. All right, so who's winning the Six Nations if Scotland beat Ireland without a bonus point? Let's just pretend Ireland ain't going to get a bonus point. And France lose to England. Who's winning it? France.
Yeah, because they're still top by 2 points.
Oh, what an anticlimax. It was like Titti Von Trump on stage. It was meant to be so good.
Well, we've chatted about the game, so let's check in now on how you're getting on in the Guinness Match Point Predictor and get your predictions for round 5 as well. Goody, you're on top of the Legends League, and Jim, you're second to last with Ben Kaiser.
Yeah, because I didn't do it on week 3 because I forgot.
Mate.
Well, the differences between me and Goody is I back my team. I back my team to the cowshed and back. Andrew, the reason you're doing so well is because you've gone against your team. You're unloyal.
Ooh, no. I backed England to beat Scotland in that opening game, and we didn't.
That's what did it for you.
So what you're saying, Jim, is that you will never beat Goody until Scotland win the Grand Slam.
Some might say, but have you seen my flag for my match point predictor?
It's basically a shield with just a grey slash across it. You've not picked a team, James. You're not English, you're not Scottish. You're a pirate, are you? You're a pirate, are you? There you go. Pirates. Yeah, James, it's kind of embarrassing. So in the Rugby Pod League, I am 234th in the Rugby Pod League. James Hamilton is all the way down in 1,836.
Oh, God. Well, if you want to join in at home, it isn't too late. All you need to do is download the Matchpoint app, join our league with the code RugbyPod, and then get your predictions in to win free pints and other great prizes as well. Well, it's your chance to make a comeback, Jim. Wales, Italy. What are you doing?
I'm going to go, for the comeback, I'm going to go Italy by 2.
In Wales?
Italy by 2, James, you mad one.
Well, it is in Wales. Like if it was in Rome, I would have gone Italy by 4. But because it is in Wales and I need to win, I'm mixing it up a bit. And I've got a pirate flag. So Italy by 2.
Italy by 2. James, you're crazy. Wales by 18.
Oh, God. Right.
Ireland, Scotland.
Oh, well, just write it down here. Scotland by 4.
When was the last time you won in Ireland?
Well, guilty, but it was 2010.
Guilty, I knew that was coming. Croke Park, yeah?
Croke Park, that was the one.
And you went out to Crystal?
Crystals, but called Crystal.
Yeah, and
details.
You drank with Mumford and Sons?
Well, they drank with me. but
Never heard the story.
Details.
Never heard that story. I mean, never heard. I'm going to go Ireland by 10.
Ireland by 10. And then France v England.
one winner, England.
Really, Jim?
Well, for the match point pirate predictor, yeah. So England by 1.
I'd love to agree with you, but as Jim says, in this sort of segment, I go with my head, not my heart, and I think France have too much. I'm going to go France by 6.
Thanks, Gertie. Thanks, Jim. Thanks, producer Tristan, and thank you very much for listening. Don't forget to check us out on YouTube and make sure you've subscribed on Spotify.
Espanol, it's a rugby sport, the sport.
Spot the pod.